Hello and welcome to this episode of the Innovation Circuit with Theta. I'm Liz Knight, Theta's Head of Cybersecurity, and I'm joined by Andrew Taylor, Head of Product and Innovation, and Jeff Wogen, our Head of Digital. Today we're talking about tech trends and their relevance and usefulness to us heading into 2026. We've got lots to cover, so we'll split this into 2 episodes, with this being part 1. What we'll discuss today grew out of a series of executive events with customers that we ran recently around the country. Using a simple web app, which Andrew vibe coded specially for the events, we asked attendees to swipe right if the tech trend would be relevant to their business in the next 12 months, or swipe left if it wouldn't, giving us a real-time snapshot of what is currently influencing our customers. We'll share some of these key stats from these events at the end of each topic. Let's start off exercising our brain cells with evolving computer paradigms. In the era of 5G, Starlink, green energy, and post-quantum computing, Andrew, as our Head of Product and Innovation, what are you seeing and how are these technologies changing the way Kiwis work?
This is an interesting area, and it covers everything from the edge to the data centers. So by the edge, I mean small devices that are connected to the internet. Can be sensors, can be anything like that, and all the way through to the data centers. So there's a lot of change happening at both ends of the spectrum, and the bit in between, which is the connectivity, 5G and satellite connectivity especially. So at the edge, we've got increasingly powerful devices that people have available. I was recently reading how someone was managing to run a web server off a disposable vape. So that just shows you the kind of power that we're even throwing away right now in computing at the edge. And then in the middle, we've had a big increase in 5G rollout and now in satellite internet. And 1NZ announced in July that they'd had 2 million text messages sent via satellite across their network since they rolled that capability out, which is in late 2024. So that's definitely a cool thing and getting a lot of use in New Zealand. And then if we look at the data centers, there's obviously a lot going on in that space with new chip designs and big concerns about energy demands for data centers and turning to green energy where that's required. Microsoft actually just joined the Nuclear Energy Consortium because power-hungry data centers are a thing that you need to be applying some imagination to about how you get enough power to run these huge data centers that are required, especially for AI. And in the AI space, there's new chip designs coming forward for AI and new types of chips called memristors, which are specially designed chips that can learn in real time on chip. So the Korea Advanced Institute of Science and Technology has been doing some great research in memristors, which is a new chip design. So a lot happening in this evolving computing paradigm space. And quantum is another area, but I'll let Jeff talk a bit more about that space.
Thanks, Andrew. From the results from our executive events that we held, evolving computer paradigms had a 60% swipe rate for swiping right. So, over 60% of our customers see these evolving computer paradigms as relevant to their business in the next 12 months, which really means they're playing a great part in the advancements for our Kiwi businesses, which is super exciting. In some regards, we want quantum computing to take its time. In other areas, it's going to bring radical positive change to the way we work and what we're able to achieve. Jeff, what are your thoughts on preparation for the quantum era?
It's a pretty exciting space, to be honest. It's because it's really not just about, we've got something with faster CPUs and we'll make some incremental progress in it. It's leverages this whole new concept in quantum mechanics, and what used to take years or even longer, it can be done in a much shorter period of time. Unfathomable computational speeds, really. And so when we think about all that, we might naturally think of an area of concern, and that's where the adversaries out there have been thinking of it as well. And that's an encryption. Because the way we do encryption today is, well, it's intentionally mathematically complex, the way we do our private and public keys. So that with today's computers, it would literally take thousands of years to try to break that encryption. But with quantum computing, that can be done in minutes. Pretty significant implications for that. And one area that the baddies are really looking at out there is this notion called harvest now and decrypt later. So through whatever nasty means they got and broke into a system, and they found a treasure trove of data, but maybe that data is all encrypted and they don't have the keys. Well, not to worry, they just collect it all now and they store it for later when the miracle of quantum computing comes along, and they'll make short work of it, even if that might be years away. So kind of scary, but there are international organizations out there like the UN that are trying to do something about it, where they're getting panels and researchers together to try to be ready with quantum safe cryptography, try to get ahead of that curve. But of course, there's another exciting and if not a little bit scary space where quantum computing can come in, and that's in AI, because the way that AI works and the computations that it does is ideally suited for what quantum computing does. So it's going to give a whole new meaning to the idea of being disruptive.
Thanks, Jeff. The results from the executive event had only 38.5% preparing for the quantum era on their roadmap for the next 12 months. I'm just going to say quietly here, it needs to be on everyone's agenda. Some people are predicting we'll see quantum breakthrough by 2029, but others by 2027, which is only 2 years ago. A lot needs to be done to get ready in those 2 years. So definitely something for people to study up on. One tech trend that's sure to instill awe and maybe a little fear are the developments in robotics and autonomous systems. Andrew, what are the recent advancements in this space, and how are we seeing businesses already embrace machine automation?
Yeah, I mean, this is a huge area, robotics in particular, and it's an area like most of the tech trends we're talking about in this series, which is impacted by Gen AI, and that means for robots that specialized robots are becoming polyfunctional robots. So the ability for machines to understand more broadly using these generative AI models means that you can take a model that's from a single purpose task and be able to get it to do different tasks, to context switch between different purposes. So there's a whole lot of development going on in the space of robotics and combining robotics with Gen AI, which is interesting. Even to the point of training new robots using virtual worlds that are generated by Gen AI. So using Gen AI to create virtual worlds as virtual training environments much more quickly, much more easily, and then using that as training environments for robots. That's a new thing that's being done. And then the classic things that you expect, lots more deployment into factories, into logistics, healthcare. In Japan in particular, humanoid robots are getting traction in healthcare. Especially with an aging population, there's demand, workforce demand for humanoid robots on that space. But probably most people think about robots working in logistics, and Amazon announced in June this year that they had deployed their 1 millionth robot into production. So that is a huge number of robots doing their warehousing work. And they have a new Deep Fleet AI system which controls all those robots. And using that Deep Fleet AI system, they're getting 10% better coordination across their fleet, which is pretty impressive. We'll talk about it in the next session, but that does mean there's more roles for robotics engineers and maintenance and reliability engineers working on robotics. So there are some interesting side effects of more robots. There's also more specialized jobs for people. There are people using robots like these in New Zealand. Douglas Pharmaceuticals has shown off their new robot for their warehousing. It looks like a giant cube with lots of robots that scurry across the top of it and then down through the columns to pick out the goods that they needed for shipping. And that is hugely improved both their space utilization and their throughput. And the other space that's happening in robotics is drones, and we would have seen a lot of advancements in drones from drone warfare perspective with the Ukraine war, but there's also positive examples of people using drones for things like fighting forest fires in combination with sensors in forests for smoke detection, having local drones that can take off when they get alerted of smoke. They can then fly to the area which is where the flames are, where the smoke's coming from, using heat sensors, detect where they need to apply some extinguishing material, water or fire retardant to put out the fire. So there's some cool uses there as well. And in the consumer space, there's the classic robot vacuum cleaner, which in the latest version of the Robo-Rock vacuum cleaner now has a robotic arm. So it can pick up your sock, which is the nemesis of the robot vacuum cleaner, pick up the sock and put it back in its basket so that the robot can continue vacuuming your floor. So lots of big and small advancements in robotics.
My goodness, I can just see our teenagers getting lazier and lazier. In the customer space, over 50% of our customers swipe right on this one. This is going to play a huge part for customers in the tourism, agriculture, and logistics industries, whereas other customers probably not so much. So all very interesting, all very, very cool. Another area that's seeing huge advancements is in cyber. Jeff, what trends are you seeing around next-gen cybersecurity?
Yeah, the bad guys are getting more and more sophisticated, aren't they? It used to be the case that AI could be used to help guide them or tell them what to do and how to do it, such as a ransomware attack, for example. And they would still need some pretty reasonable technical skills to pull that off. But the AI tools have advanced to a stage where it can really perform all of these sophisticated attacks for them, meaning the attackers don't need to be as experienced or skilled, meaning far more people can have access to it, which is a little bit scary. Because they've really found out how to embed the AI throughout all stages of their operations. It could be profiling victims, analyzing stolen data, creating false identities, all the things that they need to do to make their attacks more successful. And kind of along those lines, I don't know if you may have seen what North Korea has been up to in that space. So they devised this big elaborate plan to be able to get around US sanctions against them. And using publicly available AI tools out there, they looked out there at ads that the companies in the US were putting out there for software developers, remote software developers. So using AI, they were able to create these elaborate false identities, very convincing professional backgrounds, not all of them real, of course. Sure, they had to do interviews, but they passed all the coding assessments using the AI, and they still had to go on the job if they got hired. And the AI could still deliver output for them once they got hired. So this US company thinks that they're working with this US-based remote worker, when in fact it's a made-up North Korean who knows nothing about coding, most likely. And they can do this at scale because of AI, which means that those millions of dollars that the US companies thought were wages going to these workers are being funneled into the North Korea regime. So I guess the big question for all of us then is, how can we combat this? And I guess you'd say we can fight AI with AI. It's, as we've seen, it's a powerful tool for attackers, but it's also a game changer for cybersecurity defense. And that's, think of examples that what it can do on the plus side. It can detect unusual login patterns, reverse engineer malware, can even predict potential vulnerabilities based on historic data, which is pretty important when we're trying to thwart these things. Going back to that North Korea example I just went through, Anthropic, who was the company whose tools that they were using to create all these elaborate identities and pass all these tests, they were trying to get at the forefront of it and get ahead of it again. So they developed screening tools and detection methods to try to prevent this from happening again. But I guess the moral to all this is that the adversary is elevating their game significantly by using AI, whether it's phishing, or any of those other methods that they have. We need to stay on top of our game too.
Yeah, I've been following the North Korean issue. The alarm was first raised by KnowBe4, who provides cybersecurity awareness training software. We're a partner of theirs, so I've been following it pretty closely. They actually decided, after finding that they'd accidentally hired one of these fake North Korean remote workers, to keep interviewing them to kind of understand what they were doing, try and learn their behaviors, try and learn more about it. And they actually figured out that they would look and see on the CV the local area where the person was saying that they were located, and then choose a sports game that had happened in the weekend and subtly change the results and try and catch the person out that way, because something really local and specific to the local area that the AI wouldn't necessarily know, and they've used that to try and detect when they're talking to a real person or a fake person. So the results of sports games and things like that. So really, really interesting. There's no surprise that over 73% of our audience swipe right on this one, saying it's relevant to their business in the next 12 months. We all want to reap the benefits that AI can help bring to fight off these adversaries. It's a very scary time in that space. That's all we've got time for in this episode, so make sure you join us for part 2 of this discussion, where we'll cover off human-machine synergy and immersive experiences, AI everywhere and AI trust, workforce and skill evolution. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and check out the links in the show notes as well.